All right, guys, I know you've seen videos, or you could go back and look at videos of my rollback tow truck. This thing is constantly undergoing a change. Usually I'm not big on wasting money, but this thing's costing me some cash. So let me show you what's going on here. Now this truck, I'll give you a quick overview here. This rollback here was an 82, and it was an 82 Ford rollback. So I took the cab off of it, put a 65 cab on it. I believe that's 65 or 6 cab on it. That took a little time. Built the 400 that was in it. Spent a little too much on that. I put heads and stuff on it. I thought that would be a lifetime deal, and I would just run it like that. So what had happened was I was on a trip. I live in Central California. I was headed down to LA to help a friend out, so I had to drive the truck down there. And on the way back, a friend of mine called me and he goes, "You never guess what I just picked up." I picked up a 93 Dodge 1-ton diesel 5-speed. Now in the beginning I was contemplating putting a diesel in it, but I couldn't find it with a Cummins diesel. They're so popular now, everybody wants them, and they're very expensive. And you could spend 5 to 10 grand easy just on the engine with no accessories. And plus this truck has a PTO, and I wanted the 5-speed so I could put the PTO on it. Hopefully it will bolt right on. So let's see. So what I ended up doing, here's the 93, and it would turn out even better. It's an extra cab, and it's got power windows, AC, cruise, everything. It's a little beat up. It was on a horse ranch. And now what I was told is the horses did all this stuff. They'll sharpen their teeth on all of this stuff. They broke up the rear fenders, they broke the mirror, and there's some damage to it, but it's really not a big deal. The inside is, I started tearing it apart, cleaning it up a little bit. I have all the pieces for the dash and stuff, mainly just the driver's seat and a sagging headliner. But this is perfect. Now that Ford truck turned out, I'm only like 5'9" or so, but even with me in it, this thing was so uncomfortable. It's so tiny inside of these things, these old trucks. My dang knees are pretty much in my chin. So this truck is pretty awesome. Being a 5-speed too with overdrive, that Ford truck, damn thing was screaming down the highway, and that's with 350 gears in it and 30-inch tires on the back. And so this diesel also has 350s, but now with an overdrive. So it'll do about 2 grand at 65, 70 miles an hour or so. And one awesome thing about this truck is that it's a 93. So it's got the intercooler on it, and I guess 93 has a slightly bigger turbo. It doesn't have the P pump, but who cares? I'm not planning on souping this thing up, because I really want to get the mileage that a good diesel will provide and not be rolling coal all the way down the highway for no reason. So I'm going to leave it fairly stock, and it runs really strong. 350 gears in it in overdrive. It's got the PTO. It's got the Cummins Turbo 6 with an intercooler, and that is perfect. What I'm doing today is, here's what I did. Now, of course, it was a 1-ton. I cut the back half off of the frame. I cut the front half off of the Ford rollback frame that I left under it previously. And this truck ran pretty horribly. I mean, it's a good heavy-duty frame, the twin I-beam, but it's I don't know, it just didn't handle too well, and it just bounced a lot. I tried to lower it about 2 inches by extending. You'll see in my other video, I extended these perches up 2 inches to lower it some. Now what turns out is that the Dodge is already the same height as this Ford frame lowered, but the Dodge is stock, and the Dodge has such a better frame on it. It's front suspension. It's got independent control arms in the front, and it's sway bars. The original Ford had no sway bars on it. And so I took this truck, cut it right behind the cab. Here's my mark where the bed will come up to. Cut it here. Now this frame here is a cabin chassis frame, and they're generally narrower and straighter than a typical truck frame. Here is the truck frame. It's 2 inches wider on each side than the cabin chassis. But what worked out for me is that this frame here on the Dodge is about an 1/8 inch taller than the cabin chassis, so it pretty well slipped over the first 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch of the cabin chassis frame, which worked out perfect for me. So I slipped it over this frame. I got everything measured correctly. A lot of these holes in these frames are where they set the frame in a jig. So you can use a lot of these holes as measurements because they're setting a jig when they bend the frames up. And then the only problem was I really want to use the stock gas tank. This gas tank's over 30 gallons and I want all the factory stuff to plug into it. I didn't want it on the outside of the frame because that tank is huge. It's like almost 4 feet long. It would be all the way up to the cab. And if you got hit in the side, that would be a problem. So I was able to get it inside the frame rail, but I have to modify the drive shaft a little bit, change the angle just slightly to get this thing in here because the cabin chassis is 2 inches narrower just on this side, 4 inches total, and it pushed the tank over a little more. But it looks like I think I'm going to be able to get this to work. And then the U-joints on the tow truck were 1330s, and the U-joints on the Dodge are 1410s. They're freaking massive. Even though this engine being mildly built, and it's a 400, 4-inch croak, 4-inch bore, square bore stroke, I bet it puts out about 400 foot-pounds of torque, which is about what the Dodge puts out. But the Dodge puts out 400 pounds of torque at about 2,000 RPMs. This one puts it out at probably close to 4. So it's got a lot more low-end grunt, which would explain why maybe it's got bigger U-joints, or they're just building them better now, one or the other. So I think they're both Dana 70s. They both have limited slip with 350 gears, this one and the tow truck. I haven't really looked into it too much, but they look about the same. Now the tow truck rear axles are narrower because it's a cabin chassis. These axles are wider, but they will still fit under the bed. The bed is a little over 8 feet, so it should sit about here. They'll sit out a little more. I figured it might be a little more stability. I'd have to redo the perches and pull them in a little bit. But it might be the best thing. This does have anti-lock rear brakes on it also. Yeah, see, here's the deal. Here, it may not be necessary on this truck. I mean, I can assure you it's not necessary, but if I can use it, I'll hook it back up. If not, I'm not going to worry about it. But the back of that truck will be so heavy, it's not going to be a problem. These things aren't going to lock up. But so saving what I can off of it for now. Leave the exhaust and everything. I was going to show you guys a neat little trick I was using for getting the rivets off of here, because trying to use a torch to cut these rivets and pull these big plates off is just a disaster. Using a lot of gas. But here's these reinforcing plates inside the frame on the Ford. Similar bend to the Dodge, so I'm going to take these off. I'm going to reuse them on the Dodge. And then we got the top plates that go on top of the frame, and bottom plates that go underneath the bottom of the frame, around where the back of the cab is up to the front, because that's where a lot of the stress when you have a car in the back of it's going to go up under the cab. I'll show you here. See, as you see, if this rollback comes up to here, you got a lot of bouncing in here, a lot of weight up here, and it's going to be in this pinch area in here and ahead of the cab slightly. Now this plate back here is actually double lined. It's got 2 layers of 3/16 steel all the way back to there, welded in all the way up to about here. And then it's pretty well boxed now with these 2 frames overlapping. And then I'll put an end piece over the end of it. Do the same on the inside. I might kind of contour this a little bit. And then all the gusseting and the top plate that I have, it's 1/4 inch thick. Those pieces I showed you, like this. They're going to go on the bottom of this frame and on the top of it, and that gusseting plate will go just up in there where the frame bends. Because what can happen with these big frames sometimes, or any frame that's a C-channel, it won't only flex like down like this, but it'll try to twist like this. As you push down on the top, the bottom will push out one way or the other, most likely this direction. Yeah, so I was able to keep the muffler about in the same spot. I might have to twist it a little bit to get it to clear the frame over there, but so far it looks pretty good. I think I'm going to be able to make this to work. Like I said, as long as my drive shaft angles aren't too bad. So it really doesn't matter if you have an angle up and down a few degrees or sideways a few degrees. So it pushed it over just a hair this way, so I have a slight angle this way. And a lot of cars actually have the engine, or the engine assembly, like on the Ford truck, was 1.5 inches to the right. On this truck, it's only 1/2 inch to the right. So the drive shaft in the car is kind of slightly crooked over. The differential's not centered, so the pinion itself isn't always centered. You can center the pinion in the middle or choose not to. So it doesn't matter. See, like here's the pinion here. Like in this truck, it's not centered in the frame. The pinion's over this way a little bit, 1 inch or so in this direction. So the drive shaft is actually going at an angle slightly like this or like this. Even in cars they do it. My old 55 Plymouth has the drive shaft at an angle slightly because the engine's over to the passenger side, probably about 1.5 inches or so. I don't know why it could be because for foot room on the driver's side, you know, to get some leg room to operate all the pedals, which would make sense. But this Dodge truck only has 100,000 miles on it, which is crazy low for a diesel. And it's super clean. Probably a lot of maintenance was done on it. It had a 5th wheel on the back of it. And so it was, like I said, it was at a horse farm, and they probably just drove it back and forth to deliver horses, and didn't get a lot of miles on it. So I'm pretty excited, man. That thing runs so good, cranks right up, full power, everything, man. And AC, I want to do some long trips in it, go to some drag racing. I'd love to go to the duct tape drags. I always go to Bakersfield, and Eagle Field is another one that's a lot of fun. And some car drag races in the, you know, inland a little ways. And so I want that tow truck to be able to get reasonable mileage, have air conditioning, and power everything, and full comfort. I don't want my knees and my chin for 8-hour drive. But let me show you what I'm going to do here. So what I do on these, I'll give you a quick shot of how I cut these out. Now the torch would take forever to do this and makes a mess. I'll scribe a line. If you can see those rivets, they're huge tops. I'll scribe a line all the way down to the base in the middle, then I'll knock it up with a chisel, then I'll scribe it again with the cutoff wheel, then I'll knock that corner off, scribe the other side, knock that one off, and it's pretty quick, and you can knock the tops right off of them with a bunch of drilling, especially if it's hard to get inside of here. I've done both today, and the torch takes me forever, and I'm using a lot of the materials doing that. The cutoff wheels last a pretty good bit of time. So let's cut a few of these off. I'll show you how I did it. And if you got any better ideas, you let me know. Send me a text or a message or something, and let's see. All right, let's try this out. Well, this is all in real time, so I usually move through this pretty quick. bend it on the corner and try to twist it off. There it is. See how quick that was? It's off of there. Then I'll just go over the top. Make sure none of it's hanging over. That's it, it's clean. Yeah, see how good that looks? Now that'll pop right out of there. So what I'll do is I'll cut the rest of them, then I'll take a chisel and go along it and just pop each one of those out, and that's it. That was super quick. Would that take like a minute or less? Now let me finish up the others and I'll get right back to you. All right, I got them all knocked out. It only took a couple of minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down, and then I'm gonna cut it right here because this part curves in, I don't need it. So I'm gonna cut along the bottom edge and then crack it right off of there. So I'll just get my chisel and start it. See, it's already coming down. There's one. Now I got to get under it and scribe a line. Right. All right, that's it. So I got that 1/4 inch thick, 3 inches wide. I know you're asking yourself, why didn't I just go buy this stuff? I don't know, I have it. Feels good not to spend money and to reuse old stuff. And metal's pretty expensive. To buy all the steel to reinforce all this would have cost probably a couple $100. Let's knock these things out. Might have to grind the tops of them off. All right, I got them off of there. So I ended up, because they were sticking out, cut the length off a little bit and just went over to the bench and knocked them out with a hammer and a punch. You can see, if I see a top of one of these things laying around, see how big these things are. They're pretty thick. Those same things are in there. I've even tried drilling them with a drill. Man, it's just not easy. It's still mild steel, but those things are thick. You go through so many drill bits. But like on this piece here, this being inside the frame, it was not easy. See all of them right there? that I had to cut the tops off of. Luckily it wasn't on the bottom. But what I did was I rigged this thing up here, and it grabbed the outside, it grabbed the inside of the frame rail, and I put a bunch of tension on it, and as I cut those off, I kept cranking up the tension and it kind of popped it out of there. So this worked out really good. And I'll cut that piece off of there. I'll clean these rivets up, and then clean it up some and mount it to the Dodge. There's an upper and a lower bracket. That's the lower. I got the upper sitting under the truck. I think that's really all I need off of this thing. That's all I wanted. So that saved me a couple $100 just reusing that stuff, and I couldn't make anything as nice as that. But you could always use flat steel. You know, it wouldn't have to be bent up like that. Anything to reinforce the frame, at least in that high stress area, under the cab and behind the cab right there. I'm going to use as much of, or keep as much of this as I can. Nice trailer hitch on here. I think I'll keep that. The bed was demolished. I had to get rid of the bed. Even that bumper's pretty hammered. But I'm going to use the I mean, I really wanted the vintage cab look, you know. 50s cabs are way too dang small without me doing some kind of work on double cab conversion or something. That cab was really neat. But what I can do with that, now that it has a title with the cab and the frame, there's the frame and the back half that goes to that truck. This cab here, I'll have to sell just the cab. So I'll put this body back on that truck. It's a half-ton long bed. I will take this 400. I found an automatic to put behind it because I don't want that big old junky 4-speed in that truck. So I'll put an automatic behind that 400, put it in that truck, build the suspension and the brakes and all, just a quick rebuild of all the drum stuff so that it'll run and stop and be safe. And I'll sell that truck probably, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 maybe. It's got a nice patina on it. I really like the white with the rust. And then I've got the bumpers and everything else with that. I do have two 390s. I have two 4-speeds, and but they're truck 4-speeds with granny gears, and then a 352 and an automatic that was in that truck. And that truck, this truck was an AC truck, so I have an AC unit for it as well. But this bumper here, the heavy duty one, is going back on the tow truck. I'm getting rid of that goofy thing. So I got to try to make this thing look kind of mean too. Some way, if you guys have any ideas. I think round headlights would be better, give a kind of more of a vintage look. Maybe do patina paint job. I don't know. If you want, look back at one of my old videos when I first bought this rollback. It was an 82 truck, Ford truck, but it had a neat cab on it. It was just a regular cab, but it had the red, white, and blue stripes on it, and I thought it looked kind of cool. Really hated to let it go, but I wanted a vintage cab at the time. And the rollback works really nice. I rebuilt some of the hydraulic cylinders and replaced some hoses and stuff. And then I got to work on the frame or the cross mount for the transmission or cross member. See, here's the PTO. It's a Chelsea PTO, which is pretty common. There's a bunch of different ones. So what I was hoping I could do, see how where it mounts, it mounts to the side of the tranny and sits up high on the tranny. So because of that position, it runs right into the new cross member now. The old cross member was flat, so it wasn't a problem because the hoses run right in through the front of it right here. You got a return hose and a pressure hose. But I took it apart hoping to see. It looked from a glance that these sides were the same, and it turns out they're not. The holes in them are different sizes. So I was hoping I could flip it around and put everything in the other direction, but it doesn't appear to be that way because this hole here is bigger than the other side. That kind of stinks. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean this all up and make it nice, put it back together. It's pretty good shape. It's not damaged or anything. It's just a manual lever PTO, and I'll get that cleaned up, bring that to work, and when I got them in, it'll clean it up. And then these tires are actually in good shape. They're maybe 5 or 6 years old. Tires are usually good to about 10, but that's for standard car tires. These are like 10 plies or something. But the truck tires on my truck, they're brand new, but they are pretty tall. I didn't realize, looking at those and looking at these are 31 inches, those are 30s. These 31s may not even fit in the front wheel well of that truck. They barely fit in a Ford, but we'll see. If they don't fit, I'll just have to use those for spares or something, which would stink because tires are not cheap, and maybe use these on the front. But I want to be able to take this truck, maybe put it on airbags. You can also trying to get a lowering kit for the front end of a twin I-beam is impossible. And I saw one where it had new arms and everything. It was like $800 for 1.5 inches or something. So that just wasn't worth it. But on that Dodge truck, you know, with independent front arms and everything on it, you can buy all kinds of kits for those things. So I could drop this thing down with airbags or something, or even in the back, because my cars will tend to scrape a little bit pulling it up on the ramp. They're pretty low. I could put airbags on the back and drop the whole back end down. Now, if you guys see some of the newer trucks now, this is considered a light duty because it's an older 82, so it's built on a 1-ton chassis. A lot of these new rollbacks now, they're probably like 4 tons or whatever the hell they are, 600s, and they're massive. But you'll see them now with the airbags. You'll see the back end squat down when they go to pick up a car. I like to be able to do that and give the ramp a little smoother, you know, roll up on the ramp. So yeah, I plan on doing some airbags with this thing. That would be pretty cool. But that's later on. Let's get this thing running and driving first. And but it's pretty much rust free. Somebody knocked out the back window in this thing, but I've been covering it and stuff when it rains. But yeah, but I love the room in this thing. It feels so comfortable to drive it. I can't wait, man. Huge center console. Shoot, without the seat in it, you could curl up and sleep in this thing pretty much. Yeah, I like that, man. I like it. Yeah, you can see where they grafted the frame in the beginning. So this truck, the original 82 Ford truck, was probably a cabin chassis design truck in the beginning to be able to put stuff on the back of it where it had the narrow frame rails. And then you know, they get the truck, then a company modifies them and they cut the frame and extend it. See right here and right there, they extended that frame, what's that, like 2 feet, 2.5 feet, to put this rollback on it. And then they double lined it inside with another section of 3/16 steel. So we left off with me grafting the front of this suspension or the front of this cab on here. So I got most of the frame set up. I think I showed you where I had it slid over and grafted. It's about 2-foot section. And then under the bottom, what I was doing is get under here. Oh yes, right here. So on the bottom side here, I have these, they're 3/16 inch, 3-inch wide plates that I took off the Ford truck. Welded them to the bottom of the frame here to give it some stiffening. And then on the top, I got the same thing on the top up here on the inside edge, another strip along the top of it to keep the frame from flexing too much when there's weight on it. And I don't know if you can see over here, but I have plates welded that I took off of the Ford truck, and they're welded to the inside of the frame there as well. That should give it all the stiffening that it's going to require. That's exactly what came off of that Ford truck. Now here is my PTO. It was on the other side. I didn't realize there are plates on both sides of this tranny. You can mount a PTO on either side. It seems to be the PTOs are fairly universal. So I got lucky that it meshes with the transmission just fine. The problem I'm having with it was, first of all, when it was on the other side, it sat up higher and it was in the way of the exhaust. So I put it on this side and it's clearing the cross member. When I put the pump on it, this is just the drive unit. When the pump is on it, it's back here close to the frame. So I got it to kind of swing out a little bit for the hose, the inlet hose. But when there's a gear in here that slides back and forth to lock it and unlock it, and when it's unlocked, it's rubbing a little bit on the gear and the transmission. I can hear it just barely, like another 1/4 inch, and it'd be clear. So I got to do some modifications to the actual arm that swings it back and forth. If I can get a little more throw on it to clear it. I don't want to get a bunch of grinding metal and stuff in there, because I probably won't be able to hear it if it's lightly rubbing the gear. So we got that covered. I got the frame strengthened and all set up. The hard part was getting the gas tank, the original tank, to fit in here for the Dodge, because it pushed the drive shaft over just a hair. Ay, ay, ay. And here we go. So here is the original cross member from the Dodge. We got a cross member under here from the Dodge for the tank, so I can use the straps still. And then here, so what I have to do with this center pivot, usually they're either upside down or this direction, but I'm putting mine in sideways. It gives me the most clearance to keep from pushing this way over. So this is a plate mounted here. It's going to be bolted on, an extension, 3/16 steel. This will bolt right onto it, and that'll be it. And then even on the bottom, I got the tabs on the bottom down there. It can be bolted across to give it a little more stability as well if I decide to do that. So that'll be more than strong enough. And then the tank that actually holds the oil for the PTO used to be outside, out here. But I want as much room out here as I can get, so I can put some big toolboxes out here. I don't want all these tanks out here. I used to have a gas tank out here originally, a big round tank. Where that thing went, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going to mount it inside. Now, before, some of you are probably thinking, how are you going to fill it and stuff with the bed over it? When it was on here before, the bed sat over it as it is. You'd have to slide the bed back some to check it, which will still be the issue now. I'll slide the bed back to be able to check it. But if it's an emergency and I break a line and I got to put some fluid in it and I can't move the bed, I can still get up under here. It's a good 6 inches between the bed and the tank. This just screws off and pour some oil in that way. The filter sits right behind it back there. I can slide up under the truck pretty easy. There's a lot of room under this thing, so I think that'll be just fine. It'll be safer inside the frame rail. So I got these brackets that I'm working on right here, and I'm welding. They're 3/16 steel, and then weld them to the inside of the frame here, and they'll hold all that together. So see, here's the top plates. So they're 3 inches wide, 3/16 thick. They run a couple feet along the top of the frame rail on the inside. These are the two frames butted up next to each other, slightly overlapping C-channel frame. More than strong enough. I feel really good about this. There's the other side. It's gonna have plenty of strength, and it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna bow the body to where you got a car on it. You got the back of this truck leaning against the cab. And of course there are the original weld spots there, and then one in here where this 1.5 foot section was added in, and all of this was double lined. It's probably about good more than 1/4 inch thick now, and some heavy duty pieces were added in later on. It looks like that's a good 1/4 inch thick. So once all this is done, got the tank in here, I'm gonna either see if the yoke from the Dodge truck will fit on that diff. I believe they're both in as 70s or 80s, and if it will, then I want to use the larger 1410 U-joints than these 1330s, and have a whole new drive lane made for it with the 1410s. If I can't swap the yokes out, I'm going to swap out the entire diff off of the Dodge truck. That Dodge truck has better hubs and brakes on it anyways. than the Ford did. It's 10 years newer and just a better design. So that's kind of a follow-up on what I'm doing right now. I'm working on this thing today, so I'll get the tank fixed up for the PTO and finish up some other little things on it. I kind of forget what I got to do until I get to that point. But let me finish this up and I'll get back to you. All right, now that I got the drive shaft, is able to make a mock-up of the drive shaft. I got it built. This inner carrier is in place, and the front half. Pretty excited about that. This was a good $900 to have this thing built, two-piece. Man, things are getting expensive. All right, see the exhaust system. I got it built. The original muffler. Now that muffler used to be under the cab, but I figured it'd be better for droning noise and that sort of thing while cruising, and put it way in the back. So I just had to go out and buy a piece of 3-inch tubing and just run it to the back. And I used the factory tail piece, and runs right out the side from the truck, and a couple of angles here so I can run the pipe just right under the frame rail. Now this tank here used to be on the outside of the frame on the other side, but now they got it tucked in here. I can still reach it if I need to, add fluid in it without rolling the bed back if I had to. But now I got all this clear for toolboxes. And here's the rubber tube. This stuff's expensive. It's like $25 a foot. So what I'm gonna do, because this truck is longer now, I got a piece of roll bar tubing, 1 3/4 inch. That's the same inside diameter as this 1 1/4 inch right here pipe, and I'm gonna weld the ends on it and then screw it in place. I'll show you that. But this stuff is just too expensive to run full length. Even a piece of pipe to run 1 1/4 inch pipe from here to the front was $60. So this is what I got here. Right here, some roll bar tubing. I got a short piece, cut it in half. I'm gonna weld these ends on here. Hopefully I do a nice job so it doesn't leak. Screw it into place with some sealer, and that'll be it. This is 1/8 inch wall. This stuff's just as thick as a what is it, Schedule 40? It's about the same thickness, so nothing's gonna crunch this. So it should be fine. It'll be hidden right up under the frame rail on that truck, right up under there, and feed the pump. So let me get this done and I'll be right back. That looks pretty good. Just knocked the high spots off the top. But both sides are done. Now what I did before I welded this, and you gotta watch out for, is like this pipe was galvanized. This was not. But you gotta grind the galvanized dipping or paint off the outer edge of it. It'll make it really hard to weld. It'll be porous, and the fumes that come off of it will give you flu-like symptoms. It won't kill you, but it'll make you feel sick for a few days. So I ground all that stuff off, and it stuck really well. All I can do is try it and hope it doesn't leak. But if it does, I could always fix it. And hopefully that'll be good enough. Now let's put this thing in the truck. Well, here's the next day. I've been working hard at it. I got the front bumper on this thing. Look at this piece of junk over here. There's no way I could have left that on there, so I was able to pull the big Mad Max bumper off the other frame. Got everything all set up under here and cleaned up. There's the brake there to hold the truck down. Just one more look at the back here. Everything's all done. Let me crank it up and we'll make sure there are no fuel leaks. Now this is a special union here. Get this thing so you can see it right there, for a nylon fuel line. Now these are all different. This one's nylon to nylon connector. They have steel to nylon and steel to steel, so be careful if you buy one of those things. And they have other types too that push inside the line I got one of those up front. And the interior, yeah, I know you guys missed this one, but it was a lot of work and it was just kind of boring to film. I ripped this entire interior out of this truck, dashboard and everything, washed and cleaned everything. All this dirt all over the ground, this came out of the truck. It was on a farm truck. This must have had a good trim package. It must have been a high-end trim level truck. It's carpeted inside and out. Even the headliner, I took it out, but it's a double line. That looks pretty nice, actually. I took it out because it was coming down. It helped that it has no back window in it, so it came right out. But it's got power everything, tilt steering, AC, heat of course, power mirrors. Look how nice that dash looks now. Usually what I do is I'll clean the truck one time and then that's it. It never gets cleaned again. So I might as well clean it good now. Still gotta take the panels off and clean the dirt out of the, I'm sure the lower part of the door panels are full of dirt. And these are the skids. I put these on. So as the bed comes forward, it just lays on top of these. These are just wood tops and it just slides along the top. It's just how it was made. You just kind of grease those up now and then. So I'm about ready to take a ride in this thing and see if we have any weird driveline vibrations, anything strange going on. I could grab my boxes. I got some big white boxes that can go over here. One thing though that I've been waiting to see, I still have 2 more bolts to do on this side of the bracketry for the bumper. I got 2 over here and 4 over there, but man, am I tired. So I might do those later. But I want to see how this thing sits on the ground. Now, originally, the Ford was dropped 2 inches. This one was not, but it was the same ride height. So let's drop this thing down on the ground and see what it looks like. Get some of this stuff out of here. Oh yeah, it's definitely lower than the other truck. In the front, so it's probably gonna have a little bit of a stink bug look to it. Let's crank it up and roll the bed up real quick. Check for any fuel leaks. And this thing cranks right up. The old Cummins, no glow plugs or nothing, it just cranks right up. What's neat about this Cummins is that the 93 uses a mechanical pump as a helper pump, a lift pump, just like a traditional gas engine would. And it pulls a suction on that fuel tank, and then it delivers fuel to the high pressure pump, which is nice. A lot of the newer trucks, they actually have an electric pump in the tank as a lift pump, but I guess this one does not. I didn't remove it to see if it had one, but why would it have two lift pumps? So I think it's just one mechanical as far as I can see, which is kind of neat. But I like how the tank's exposed right there. It'd be really easy for me to replace or fix something if I needed to. Just roll the bed back. Now this I just made, it does rub a little bit right here, but I can, oh, there we go. It is a tight squeeze, but thank God I left that much room. So right now this is just kind of temporary. It flexes a little bit just to see if this is gonna work. I got as much angle as I could on that tube for the fuel to go down without backing up and stopping the pump. But all I can do is try it and see how that works. I do have a little more room where I could bring the angle up a little bit more if I had to, or bring this out even. Might be better if this was kind of out here, but I could still easily get a neck in there right there. Shouldn't be too bad. But I am so excited, man. This thing, I can't wait. Now this truck was built to be long distance. Yeah, no, I built this truck to be purposely to be long distance. I wanted it to be built well and as reliable as possible. Now look at this. I forgot this. Somebody had already cut the shifter on this and rigged it, so I need to make a new handle, make something kind of fun and artsy for the angle that I need. But I'm not sure what happened with that, why they did that. But yeah, I wanted it to be able to do long trips in this thing. I don't want any, fuel leaks, any problems, driveline problems, frame problems, any of that kind of stuff. A lot of cars, will it run videos and YouTube stuff? A lot of these cars aren't really long distance cars these guys build. They're fun to watch, but they'll drive them down the street and then that's it, on to the next one. This one I wanted AC and everything in this thing, and I really miss having the vintage cab on it. But man, look at the room in this thing. I could sleep in here if I had to, just kind of cuddle up, sleep in it. This thing's huge. Four-door would have been pretty awesome, but yeah, extra cab's hard enough to find as it is. But yeah, super excited about this, man. And it looks, I feel really good about it. It's pretty solid. The original diff, I believe this diff, I was wrong, I might have already mentioned it, has 411 gears. The diff in the original Cummins diff was 350 gears. Being that this does have an overdrive, with 350s it would probably cruise at like 2000, 2100 or so at 70, and the power band on this thing is around 2400. You can extend it a little bit for fuel, the fuel cut on it. It does shorten the life of them when you raise the RPM limit on them, and this is just going to be stock for me. Maybe a mild upgrade, but we'll see how it does. 411s should do really well at keeping the torque up on it. Even on the highway, that's another, what, 200 RPMs, and still within its max torque range at cruising speed. And that'll be fine. When I'm cruising on the highway in this, if it's loaded up, I'm not going to be doing 75 or something in it anyways. Just keep it safe. But yeah, man, it's so comfortable. Tilt steering, adjustable seats. I'm not sitting on a park bench with my knees and my chin like I was in the Ford cab. And but early cabs were small. That's just how they were. And the dashboard's all the way up in your face. But yeah, man, that dash looks so nice. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but yeah, power mirrors. And see, here's the brake switch. All I do is push on the brake pedal, pull this out, and it locks all 4 brakes down. And it'll hold them. I've had this thing locked down for weeks at a time. It'll hold them. If they don't leak, it'll hold them. And then this one, here's the PTO. I have it pulled right now, but I'll make a bracket for it. And I'll put it there. It's pulled out. but when it's pushed in, you won't even see it. Do that later. Still need a new hood release, you know, a couple little things. Like to get the seat fixed. And the other seat is actually on a pivot. It folds forward, which is kind of neat. And then the back window, I need a new back window. You know, some of that good stuff. But yeah, let's see the other side. See if it looks like a stink bug. Yeah, a little bit. Oh yeah, yeah, it sure does. No, that's pretty cool though, man. Man, that sits so much lower than the Ford cab did. The whole Ford suspension arm was so much higher up than this one is. That thing's almost sweeping the ground. Should be fine though. Should be. Yeah, so let me know. Should I paint this thing? I do need to do some body work, kind of pop some of these out, that back quarter. Or maybe do a patina finish on the edges and things. White patina looks good, like this one here. The old Ford, I like the patina on that one, and then just clear coat that. But that cab is going on that truck, and that cab's getting sold by itself. And then the 400 will go in this with an automatic, and that'll be a nice setup. I already spent a bunch of money on new tires, so those are staying. Those are an inch taller than those tires, but I don't think, I kind of like these smaller tires on the front though. But these tires are not, usually 10 years is a good range on a set of tires, and the back tires on that truck, on the Dodge diff, are actually like 6 years old, so I could put those on the front. But I'd like to do something custom with the grill. I like that idea with the 4 slots in it. I don't know, something custom with the grill. Give this truck a real custom look. But that'll be fun stuff I can do later. Strip the badging and clean it up. Might have to leave the turbo diesel emblem on there though, or put it somewhere else. And then a friend gave me some new lights for the top. Man, I love it. See this thing from a distance. Yeah, now that's quite a picture right there. New versus old. Yeah, that Ford cab is really cool. I can't wait to build that into a nice driving truck. But I need to do something, put a coating on it or something. I don't want that rust to get any worse than it is. There's no rust through on that body. Now that one has some, but it's not the worst. I believe that's a 66 cab and that's a 65, I believe, with the grill. I like the 5 grill better. Or shoot, take the grill out of that and put all that in that even. Huh. Yeah, who knows. I wouldn't want to butcher that up though. Make something custom. Man, look at that. I just can't get over it. That was a nice quick swap. It took me what? I figured it probably took me what, 2 months, a little bit every night, an hour or so every night, kind of working on it. And that's not too bad. I got a lot of stuff around here to do, so. But look at that bumper. Yeah, that's really neat. I love it. Now I'll take the wheels off of this thing, load these things up and get rid of them. It's hard to get rid of any extra steel, but I don't think I can use any of this stuff. I'm going to keep this diff with the 350s in it and the leaf springs in case something ever happened with any of those. And try not to store too much stuff around here. I've been getting rid of a lot of stuff, but the trailer hitch is definitely worth hanging on to. We'll get rid of the bumper. I'll keep some of the braces. And yeah, clean this up and roll in for another project. A friend of mine brought over a 60 Rambler, similar to mine. This thing's actually a pretty nice car, but it needs a new engine in it. He wants to go stock with it. Right here. That one there. I guess the engine was locked up. He got a good deal, so I'm just going to do an engine swap for him. And then this bad boy needs to go next. I need to fix the rust on this thing and fix the transmission, but it's horrible out here. Look what it did to the hood. This thing was such a good car. And then we got that one. I want to section and chop and channel that thing. And that's a 51 Chrysler, I think it is. A little difference, a two-door though. Chrysler Plymouth, but it's a two-door. It's got the slanted posts on the side windows, which is nice. Someone already chopped it. Be neat to fix that thing up, make it into something crazy. All right, well, we'll do a we'll see how this thing runs. Once I get it out of here, we'll go down the road and see how this thing runs for us. Yeah, now I took this truck for a drive yesterday. We'll take it for another drive. But the problem that I had with it was I didn't have any driveline vibrations or anything weird like that. But I'm getting a transmission noise in fourth gear. A little bit in third, but mainly in fourth. And the noise actually transfers through the drive shaft and makes a loud tinny sound. But even in first gear when I'm cruising slow, I can hear a lot of slop in the transmission. You'll hear gear rattle, stuff like that. So these it's a GetTrack 360, which is a German tranny, and they weren't used for very long. Now it's the NV 4500, which is an awesome tranny. Everyone loves them. So these are a little problematic. But it does have 100,000 on it. It probably needs a rebuild. My feeling is probably just standard wear, some needle bearings in there or something like that, something going on. But in fifth gear, perfectly quiet. So these transmissions typically take engine oil. So I put 1540 in it, 4 quarts. And then a little bit of high pressure additive. I added a little bottle of that stuff in there. Gear oil has a lot of high pressure additives. Engine oils, not so much. So I added some of that in there. But I hear on the forums a lot of guys are putting 5 quarts in them. A little bit seems to help some. So I just added a quart of 80-90 gear oil in it. And let's see what that does. If it'll quiet down some of that slop in there. So we're going to go on a test drive real quick and see how it works out. Look at that, ice cold. This thing cranks right up. Man, these things are awesome. It will sound a little bit noisier in the cab because I have no back window in this thing, but we'll find out. Uh-oh, I left something back there. Oh, yeah, the wheel chock. Wheel chocks don't do too much good on a diesel. It just ran right over it. Yeah, I got major front end wobble. It must be the front tires, or I think their belt's coming apart or something. Really out of round. Or out of balance. But so far, just driving down the street, I haven't heard a single noise from this thing. Usually in fourth gear, especially if I wind it up, it would scream. You would definitely hear it. See, after this light, I'll run fourth gear out a little bit. It was really high pitched, horrible screeching sound. Okay, here's third. Bit. I heard a little bit of the noise. Being that it changed, adding that extra quart tells me it's definitely in the tranny. But that's how the sound will transfer down the drive shaft. Make you think it's in the drive line somewhere else. It's actually in the transmission. But it made a huge difference, so that's good. That's a plus. Maybe the transmission would benefit from a little more of a gear oil mix. The standard oil might be too thin. Like I can see using standard oil in a newer transmission, but an old worn out transmission like this, it probably needs a little more cushion between the gears and everything that's all worn out. It drives really nice. So any noise you're hearing now is just because I have no back window. You can see the front end, the wheels shaking a little bit. Even the tires, the front tires on this thing are 7, 8 years old. Even rubber tires, they'll start to get hard after a while and affect your ride quality. A new set of tires on the front, this thing would ride so smooth. I don't want to spring for a $400 set of tires or more. So I'll get some of the newer tires that showed you off the back that are about 5 years old or so. All right, let's try this again. One more time. There's third. On the floor. There's fourth. Here's a little rattle. See, there it is. Okay, hear that? I guess it's not much. It's a little better. But it must mainly do it when it gets warmed up. I might even try just swapping all gear oil in that tranny. It did seem to help a little bit. Transmissions are usually manuals, they're just made up of needle bearings and stuff, so even if they recommend engine oil in it, you can run gear oil if you need to. Whatever it needs to shut it up is what it's going to get. Well, I guess that didn't turn out too great. The warmer the transmission got, the more noise it started to make. So now the last part, driving up to my driveway, it was pretty horrendous in fourth gear. But I guess all I could try, short of rebuilding it, is try putting more thicker lube in it, see if it'll help with some of that chattering. But it drives just fine. It doesn't stick in gears. It doesn't jump out of gear, none of that stuff. I don't want to pull this thing out right now, so I'm just going to leave it alone. And once the back window's in it, I won't hear it quite so much. But fourth gear, as you know, you're usually in fourth gear for a few seconds or so. So as long as fifth is good, that's mainly what matters. That's my cruising gear. So I appreciate everybody watching this episode, and I'm going to start working on the 65 Ford, putting the 400 in that and modify that thing. I got to put boxes on the side of this thing, and that's probably it for about now. So I'll see you next time.